Hey boys and girls, welcome back to the underground lair. We have a strange looking beast here. I've only seen one of these in the wild once before, a couple of years ago. A friend of mine's son's band has a bass player that uses the Philip Kubicki EX Factor bass. Made in California. This is a 2007 model. Okay, so here we are. So what happened here is this is a bone nut. It only goes from the A to the D to the G. It has its own nut up here for the E. But he got ahead of himself. Everybody makes mistakes. Cannot fault him there. I make plenty myself. He put the E here and busted off the little chiclet for the A string because it's too big. Anyhow, the E string goes here. You need an extra long scale string for this string. You can use long scale strings here. So you basically need two sets of strings unless you buy either a whole set of you buy the strings from Kubicki, but they go from 105 to 45. He wants to go 100 to 45. There's certain brands that will do custom gauges for you. I know that DR Strings will do that. He wanted to go with Diodario. To my knowledge, and I looked everywhere I could think to look, and I could not find a set of extra long scale 100 to 45. And that's the strings he wants to use. So we had to go and buy a set of extra long. They're 100, and we're going to use the E string out of that, and we're going to use a set of long strings for the other three. Cool feature that this has is you tune this to D, and if you want it to go E, G, or E, A, D, G, you can lift this handle up and you got a zero nut here or here. Slip the string underneath here, and that becomes a your E. I'm going to string it up to D and let him deal with that. But we have to soften this up with a towel. We're going to make it wet with our household iron. And they use white glue, and we're going to nudge that out of there so we don't go busting anything. And we're going to, I bought myself 12 chances, 6 in this bag and 6 in another bag, to make a nut that will fit in here. And as you can see, they are a lot bigger than what's in there. So we're going to use our sanding belt sander and disc sander combo. Let me go ahead and get everything covered and so forth, and we'll be back and making a nut. Okay, so we got ourselves a nice hot iron here. Steam this nut up. Stand by. Let me apply some other logic here. Oh, there you are. Welcome back, everybody. We finally got the nut out of our Kubicki X Factor base, EX Factor base. Man, it took, we had to cut the nut down the center and collapse it. And even then, it left the bottom part of the nut inside the nut slot in there. So we took to my smallest drill bit and we drilled 5 drill holes in the center of the nut down to the ebony using a stop drill bit. And then we got the soldering iron and a syringe of distilled water, and we dropped distilled water into those 5 holes and hit each hole with the soldering iron cranked up to 11, like in Spinal Tap. This is Spinal Tap, sorry. And finally, using a little pick, I was able to get, not a guitar pick, but a metal pick. I was able to finally, by using those holes, it finally started to come out. Whatever monster used either CA glue or what's the stuff that you mix the 2 glues together? I can't remember it right now, but some monster used something other than tight bond, which is what the folks that I talked to, Carla at Kubicki, they used yellow tight bond just on the very bottom of the nut, and that should have come out with heat and just popped right out, but no. So we have a bone saddle, and if you see, I've got some lines on this. I have the bottom marked and I have the end that I am going to see. When these things come in a package, they're square. Okay, so I knew which side I was going to use and keep originally square. So I worked on this end and this end. So you could see there, I took a considerable amount off. I hope that's viewable in the thing, but whatever. I still have to take a whole lot more off. So, and I have to make this end that's got the black on it, I got to make that rounded because the nut slot is rounded on the base side. And I took my flat pencil and I drew the radius onto the nut of the height of the fret, and we came and we measured that this is a 7.5 inch radius. So I took the nut, which I have sized for the slot, and we drew a line for about where I want the nut slots to go to. About, I went higher than I should, and then using the same gauge, the 7.5 inch, I made another line where I want the top of the nut slot to be, or the top of the nut to be. So I can go ahead and go over to my disc sander and make the appropriate adjustments. So there we are, and as you can see, I oiled the ebony fretboard and the headstock. We took some ebony dye, and there was some marking here from where this is kind of a capo, so you tune it to D, and you can slip the string underneath this, and that makes this this is a 0 fret. That makes this an E. So this was your D tuna before there was a D tuna, and then everything else is tuned to A, D, and G. And somewhere along the line, probably with whoever put the heavy duty glue in there for the old nut, man, it came out in pieces. They dribbled some kind of dribbly goo that stained the ebony fingerboard, and I used Stumac fingerboard cleaner and conditioner, and it's still there. It went into the pores and it ain't coming out, so that's as good as it gets there. So I'm going to remeasure everything, and we're going to go over to the disc sander and we're going to finish making this nut. So we're going to go ahead, and I've also measured the string width before I destroyed or string spacing before I destroyed the nut, so I have a general idea where to go to. Okay, so now we have the nut that's, hope you could see it in the video there, the camera's focusing. We have the rounded part of it fit perfectly into the slot. Now we have to take it down to size. That way, once I do that, we'll take the end off so we get the right flush to it, and then we're going to round the top of it, crown it if you will. I got the nut down to almost the line. I checked it with the radius gauge and I'm very close. So I got a sanding block here, 7.25, and I got some 220 grit here. So I'm going to go ahead and just get that to match. All the way across. Let's see what the fit looks like. I'll tell you what, man, that looks nice. Probably still a little high, so we're going to keep this handy. I'm going to go ahead and mark that. So we're going to mark that. So we're going to go ahead and take that end off. Okay, so I did cut it a little short of the line here. Hope that shows up. Drop it in the slot. Yep, it's a little proud. We have ourselves a beautifully rounded nut. We used a file and we rounded it, kind of like crowning a fret, not to the same degree. And I got myself a nice little cartoon showing my spacing. So that's the next step. We're going to use this. We are not going to do it on the guitar, but I'm going to double check when I mark it. So this is nice and flush here. We got a nice bevel, and the round end here fits here. Okay, how to string your Kubicki X Factor bass. You need a capo. Where's my capo? Where is my capo? There it is. Alright, so the idea is you put your ball end in the ball end receptacle. And you put a capo to keep it in place. Alright. You can already tell that nut is too high. That's okay. I want to make sure my string spacing is happy too. So the idea is you come down here to the nut and you want to go about a finger's length. I got stubby fingers, so let's get into movie too. Yeah, there we go. You want about a finger's length past the end of your fine tuner. So I got stubby fingers, so I'm going to go a little further. Mark it right there, and we're going to cut it. And we're going to take it, and there's these little holes. Put it in a hole, bend it just a little bit so you know where you're going to bend it. Take your needle noses, and bend it kind of like you would with the DR strings. These are not DR strings. These are the Diodarios. Now this was a super long. These are just long because these are here. Well, you can't see it. I'm going to put a little bit of my graphite paste. Might as well do it to all of them while I'm thinking about it. Gotta keep your engine clean, right? So I've been doing this about 10 years. I bought this thing 10 years ago. And it was probably 10 bucks. Stu Mac had a big sale over the 4th of July weekend. And I got a new package right here for $21. But I still have some of this left. This will probably last me another year. So, okay, back to the stringing. So you put it in a hole and you make sure you keep the thing down in the hole. And you just start winding. It's a little ratchety thing, and eventually keep tension on it, and it will overlap the string as it comes around the mountain. You want to pull it as tight as you can. That last wrap-a-doodle there. Come on, you can do it. And you want all of these as far out as you can. Okay, that's as far as that's going to go. So then you lift it into the saddle and then you tune it up. Where's the tuner? Okay, it's on. Let's start cranking this. This is tuned to D, remember. All right. So that's basically the idea there. I'm going to go ahead and put these other two strings on, whatever. And we'll be back and we'll do a setup. We finally got the nut in there and we've shaped it and we've got our string action correct. Now, got to get the strings back out of here, and we've got to put a couple dots of not JB weld. Oh no, I almost lost a string. Can't lose a string. You know what? This is a perfect opportunity do what I've done on all the other strings. There we go. I noticed that all my other strings are wrapped to the left. And this one's to the right, so we'll fix that right now. Alright, so now we can get this out of here. So there's our nut, cut perfectly to the right radius, rounded over the top. Put a little bit of tight bond original right there. We take our nut. I need an eraser, boys and girls. Get rid of my pencil line. Da, 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 da. Take our bone nut, cut the right end. Put it in the nut slot and the strings will hold it in place. I was just about to say we got no squeeze out. Just a little bit here by the 0 fret. So take care of that with a tiny bit of paper towel. Ta-da! I hope the camera was rolling whenever I strung this. When you string this, you put the string in the nut slot and you take this and you click it. Nut slot in the retaining slot. And we've done a preemptive strike with the string height. We brought everything to 5/64 at the 17th fret. And to do that, you use a 5/16 inch wrench and you turn this, each individual saddle, counterclockwise to bring it up, clockwise to bring it down. And to adjust your intonation, I already did the E/D depending on if you're using the capo or not. There's a number, you use a number 3 Phillips, and you actually unloosen. It's counterintuitive, and I saw that somebody had not followed the instructions on that, and they tried to unloosen this, and I bent the metal just a little bit on this. But what you do is you actually tighten to loosen, and then you physically move the saddle where you want it. You clockwise to loosen, move your saddle, and counterclockwise to tighten. So move this capo up to hold the ball ends in. Move these into the string slots. Now we can raise these up. Make sure we're all grabbed in. Raise up. That's there. We're in our slots. Now we just tune it up. It's kind of frustrating the first time when I first changed the strings, when we went to tune this up. I ran out of tuner, which is fine. As when I backed off of them, I found that I was able to get another click, and then it tuned up just fine. Just make sure our strings didn't spin. Nope, the ball ends are right where I want them. And the string height that I went for here was about 21 thousandths at the first fret, and I based that off of what the 0 fret is on the first fret as well. So that's what the factory went with. That's what I'm going to go with. So I always bend these over at the saddle. And we're still intonated there. So I'll show you intonation. Okay. I think these were all off except for the yeah. Okay, so good example. The A is flat, meaning the needle is that way, which also means the saddle's got to go that way. So we're going to back this up just enough to get the saddle or the string out of the saddle. Okay, take our number 3 and we're going to tighten to loosen, right? And it's going to move forward quite a bit. I'm going to call that about there. And we're going to untighten to tighten. Got it? Got it. Saddle, retune. Okay. Band over. Okay, we have an A. And the A is intonated. Okay, I'm going to do that 2 more times. We got a new nut. It's glued in. And we don't have any squeeze out. We have 21 thousandths across these 3 strings on the new nut to match the 0 fret. We have 12 thousandths of relief at the 7th, holding it to 17th. We've adjusted our string height, or pickup height, I'm sorry. String height at the 17th, we are at 5/64. Our intonation is set, and our strings are 40 to 100 Diodario's. This is a great bass. That might be 7 pounds. Super light. The way it's configured right now, that is in E tuning. I'm going to leave it that way for him. He can change it back if he wants to. We're going to call this done for all intents and purposes. Tightened up the neck, the strap buttons. See the back of the headstock. That is a cool looking bass, man. If you're in the greater Pittsburgh area and you need your guitar brought up to par, send us an instant message on the Facebooks. Go to stringmanguitars.com for all the contact information. Love your neighbor like you love yourself. Take care of the old folks because they are indeed special. And most of all, you have yourself a good rest of the week. And yeah, peace. Have a good one.